Welcome back. You're still tuned in to News and Views with myself, Salalo Makudiri. The time is 9:40 Central African Time, and we'll be turning our attention to a devastating natural disaster that has struck the heart of eastern Afghanistan. Just before midnight on Sunday, a magnitude 6 earthquake ripped through the provinces of Choonara and Nangarhar, killing at least 112 people and injuring more than 2,800. The toll is expected to rise, and this is all happening in a region that is already crippled by conflict, crippled by displacement, and deep poverty. This earthquake is yet another tragic blow to the people of Afghanistan, who now have their homes flattened, and families are digging loved ones out from the rubble with their bare hands. Survivors are being airlifted by military helicopters, and the aftershocks and landslides continue to pose serious risks and threats. On the humanitarian front, response teams from the Ministry of Defense, from the UN, and some international NGOs are rushing in with supplies, but the needs are immense, as one can imagine. And one organization that already has had an established presence in Afghanistan is Africa Muslims Agency, and they have mobilized faster to respond to this tragedy. And I'm now joined by Hafiz Choonara. He's the regional manager at Africa Muslims Agency, and he'll be giving us a first-hand look at how relief is being coordinated, what their teams are seeing on the ground, and what kind of support is still urgently needed. And this is where you, the listener, comes in. Hussein, Jazakallah so much for joining us. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Salam Media. Always a pleasure.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's Hafiz Hassan with you today. Alhamdulillah, shukran for having us. Always a pleasure being on Salam Media.
No, the pleasure's all ours. I think we can kickstart the conversation by maybe you painting the picture, for our listeners. What are your teams in Afghanistan witnessing right now in some of the worst affected zones? Just give us a sense of the scale of the destruction and the need that has arisen.
Well, obviously, like you mentioned in the introduction, we have offices in Afghanistan, we have teams in Afghanistan, and having personally been to Afghanistan a number of occasions, and also being to an earthquake zone, Herat province, just about 2 years on now, where also earthquake severely affected the villages there. I can just think, and looking at the pictures and images coming from our teams on the ground, most of the families living in these two villages, in homes in this, sorry, not two villages, but 13 villages completely destroyed in two different districts, and the hundreds of homes. People are living in mud structures, structures that are made out of mud, wood, etc. And I can just think of Herat province 2 years ago, an entire village completely flattened, and that's what happened right now. Also in these 13 villages in two districts, where these homes have been completely destroyed. Over 800 people have passed, and the numbers are rising. Thousands are displaced, obviously, with no place to stay. And today, as I speak to you, Afghanistan it's already gone past midday. Our teams are at these districts, at these villages, facilitating urgent assistance in terms of food packs, hygiene kits, and hot meals to the affected families. One is still dealing with the trauma and assisting in that space of people. So trying to mention people trying to pull out of the rubble, so to speak, but also people who are now staying in the open and need shelter, they need food, and our teams are there today assisting. Alhamdulillah.
And I think it's very important to touch on that, the fact that as AMA you guys have had a footprint in Afghanistan for some time now. Did that make things a bit easier, knowing that you have people there, you have contacts, you have coordinated, established structures in kind of responding to this earthquake?
Absolutely, that which you have mentioned, but also the relationship with the relevant authorities in these provinces and these areas, and alhamdulillah, over covering a vast number of the land of Afghanistan over the number of years in terms of the building of boreholes, etc., assisting families. So that relationship, that established relationship that Africa Muslim Agency already has with the relevant authorities and also with the people in these villages on a regular basis makes it obviously much more easier for us to go in and assist immediately. Obviously, once the messages came through of the earthquake, the teams did an assessment, and alhamdulillah, we had to do an allocation, and that has already been done. And today, as I speak to you, the teams are there today facilitating urgent relief efforts, and we'll get those images out later today, inshallah, to share with the communities who are contributing to this Afghanistan earthquake relief.
Mm, mm, mm. I want to talk, about logistics, especially with a country like Afghanistan. I think maybe the advantage that you guys have is having those established structures, as we mentioned. But you've been there, and I think we've spoken while you were there, about just the terrain, the mountainous terrain, sometimes being faced with poor infrastructure, and just the ongoing political situation. How are you teams navigating some of these barriers? And the authorities, as you mentioned, have they made it kind of easier to kind of make sure that AMA and other organizations are able to do their work?
Absolutely. Obviously, in any disaster area, there's obviously going to need the need for coordination and networking with the relevant authorities, just to synchronize efforts to ensure that there's an orderly fashion of relief being distributed in a sense to families. And so this coordination with the relevant authority is key in any disaster area. Yes, Afghanistan is a country that's been affected by 4 decades of conflict, but the people there at the moment, alhamdulillah, have been willing. Those that are in power have been, readily available to assist us in ensuring that our objectives are met in serving the needs, the humanitarian needs of the communities in various parts of Afghanistan. You talk about the terrain. Yes, it's a difficult terrain, especially in the valleys, in the villages. It's not easy. You go to a mountainous area, and between the mountains is this huge valley, and you have
Mm,
thousands of people staying in these mud homes. And obviously, with the earthquake, these homes just collapse, and you just see sand piles all over the show, and you need to navigate through this to assist these families. Look, it's a picturesque sight to see during the summer or snowy months. These mountainous areas, these green valleys, these homes. In its simplicity, it's beautiful. But when a situation like the earthquake happens, like it just happened 2 days ago, then we find ourselves needing to speedily assist the families there, as they are in need at the moment. Not you can't really salvage much in a mud structured house, and perhaps most of the belongings are gone, and people are already staying in the open. And in the evening, especially in the valleys, it gets bitterly cold, especially as we head into the winter months in
mm,
Afghanistan. We know in December it snows across Afghanistan, and so the temperatures, although coming out of summer now, will we start to drop in the evening. So it's a complex situation. The teams are there today, alhamdulillah. As we speak, two teams are on the ground in these villages to assist with the food packs. So the appeal out there to the communities, it's an urgent appeal. People are in need as we speak. Donate towards Afghanistan earthquake relief so we can assist more and more families. You must know some of these families, Salila, and I think perhaps you alluded to this in your question. A country
mm,
with 4 decades of conflict, already you have many homes that were facing difficulty. Already you have homes who are, battling to make ends meet, but at least they would have a mud structure over their head, or a home, so to speak. And now with this earthquake, having already not having the means, having
mm.
already having difficulty to put food on the table, so to speak, having difficulty to send children to school, having difficulty living in squalor conditions, now living in a complete open with all your other challenges that you already had, makes it even more difficult.
Hmm. No, most definitely. And I think just for, the sake of our listeners, if you can give a bit more background of the work that AMA has already been doing in Afghanistan, and how, this tragedy is going to need a little bit extra, from our listeners, from all those that can be able to contribute. We've spoken about the structures and the footprint that you already have, but in literal field terms, what kind of work was being done by AMA in Afghanistan?
Alhamdulillah, over the last number of years, through the generosity of the donors, and obviously through the mercy of Almighty Allah, we're able to build already close on to 400 boreholes across Afghanistan. We know that there are many water challenges in the villages, like the villages that have been affected now through the earthquake, where the access to clean drinking water is very difficult. We find in many villages people having to come and buy these cans from the carts that you used to go by, and you pay some Afghanis to either purchase water, or they would go to a catchment facility. And I've seen this so many a times where they go to where water is caught. That's obviously wastewater, and they would draw that water and take that home and boil it and use it for their consumption. So the construction of bowls brings the benefit and of clean drinking water to the villages and also to the urbanized towns for the elderly and for the children, for them to have access to clean drinking water. Obviously, the construction of homes, already a project the African Muslim Agency implemented, started last year, this project, alhamdulillah, where we're building homes for families over the last number of years. So many homes we've come across where people are living in these mud structures exactly just to avoid a situation like we see find ourselves now, building homes with brick and mortar, a decent home with proper flooring that's conducive and comfortable in the sense of giving comfort during the summer months as well as the winter months, so people to have a decent place and to live in a dignified manner. And that project now even more imperative in a situation like this. And you see the importance of it as you see people losing their lives in the mud homes they have, in the homes literally just crumbling, on top of them. If they had those brick homes, those motor homes, alhamdulillah, some sort of relief. Not to say that it's foolproof. Almighty knows best. There's some of the projects, obviously, the bakeries that are providing
mm,
bread to identified orphan families who, if without that assistance, would have no means at all and will go days without a morsel of food.
mm, mm. And just lastly, I'm just asking this question for myself. You guys also have, a strong presence in Gaza also. With some of these crises happening simultaneously, how does Africa Muslims Agency manage multi-regional humanitarian responses without diluting the impact that you guys ultimately have?
Alhamdulillah, with Gaza, there's teams who are from Gaza who are facilitating the work for us, alhamdulillah. So it's not sending a team into Gaza. As you know, there is not no possibility of any
Mm,
outside team unless it's governmental arranged. But inside Gaza, alhamdulillah, we have teams are facilitating right now the need for baby formula, and as well, what we are doing at the moment, we are doing this takia lentil soup feeding in 3 different areas inside Gaza. The cost of items they've increased drastically
mm,
over the last 2 years. The making of bread also at the moment, our teams are able to get flour and make the bread and provide about 8 loaves of bread to each family, ensuring that the bread lasts the family a longer period of time because at least they would have bread to nourish themselves. And the distribution of clean drinking water with the water tanker. We know that the desalination plants have been damaged inside Gaza. Alhamdulillah, we're still able to get access to clean drinking water where premises and holdings have access to boreholes, and we're able to procure this water from these families and then distribute this clean drinking water to the affected areas. In terms of the diversity of the efforts on the ground, alhamdulillah, the South African community is always a generous community, and we urge them to continue supporting the relevant efforts. Why? Because there is a need on the ground. AMA has offices in Afghanistan. We have a duty to the people of Afghanistan to assist them. They've been affected by 4 decades of conflict, and a situation like the earthquake happens, we are there readily to assist and are already on the ground assisting. And in Gaza, we know the sad situation of what's happening there ongoing on a daily basis. Famine. It is now a famine zone, famine area. Children are literally starving. And your 1 rand, your 10 rand, your 100 rand, your $100, your $10,000, your 100,000 rand, whatever it is, it's not the value, but it's the near with which Allah will look at it and will bring barakah and assist people across the globe. Without forgetting the efforts, as you mentioned, Salelo, the need for water wells in Africa as well as efforts in
mm.
South Africa.
No, most definitely. And I think we're going to leave it on that note. We have your contact details, your website. We'll be putting it up on our screens. But otherwise, Jazakallah so much for joining us. Always a pleasure.
تقبل الله شكرا خير. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
There you go. That was Hafiz Hassan, Choonara Regional Manager at Africa Muslims Agency, joining us in the wake of Afghanistan's latest tragedy, a natural disaster that has taken hundreds of lives and shaken thousands more. And if you'd like to support AMA's earthquake response in Afghanistan or contribute to some of their other humanitarian projects, including Gaza, as you heard there from Hassan, there's projects right here in the African continent in South Africa, Malawi, Zimbabwe, here in South Africa, some of the far-flung rural areas that are doing brilliant work. You can visit their website. It's africamuslimsagency.co.za. And as you mentioned, as you heard there from Hassan, every rand does matter. It allows them to do the incredible work that they've been doing for some time now. And the focus slightly shifts to Afghanistan in the wake of that devastating earthquake. Otherwise, we're going to take a quick break. Still up ahead in around a minute's time, we'll be uncovering Al Aqsa through the eyes of Dr. Abir Zayad and learn how one South African tour hopes to reconnect communities with the sacred site and its living history. We'll be touching on that with none other than the project coordinator of the Dr. Abir Zayad South African tour, Salam Media's very own Apa Meremia. She's joining us after this.